and the promise and potential of who you can become. And becoming is not just of you in a physical sense, but it's in the legacy you leave behind. And the last thing I think I learned or understood is how my grandparents came to be. I understood what Sugar saw. I saw the kindness, or I appreciated more the kindness.
Amen.
And the humor.
Yes.
And the reflectiveness, which
Yes.
is important.
Yes.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
Your accomplishments.
Yes.
Your disappointments.
Yes.
And things you may want to correct, but you've come to peace.
Yes.
And that's important. That's all I have to say.
It's all right.
And I'm not just sad, I'm grateful.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a childhood friend. I lived next door to them 40 years. Niecy used to babysit me. I'm not trying to tell your age, I'm sorry. We know that we believe in God, so we know that absent from the body, He's present with the Lord. Briefly, my reflections on Mr. Hughes, as Fred knows, I affectionately call him Pops. First of all, I want to bring you condolences from people from the block. I spoke to Janet Brown, I spoke to Jackie Brown, I spoke to Regan Ellis, and Mark Lynch. They all send their condolences to the family. My reflections on Pops. He was, it would be nothing for us to be playing on the block and see him get up early, going to work to that barbershop. Right. He would work all day and we'll be still playing. He'll come home at night, real quiet, always dressed nice, always in a pretty car. He always had a good car. He was a businessman, he was an entrepreneur. Matter of fact, he had a car that he was selling, and I told him, Pops, I want that car. I want that car. And this one I knew I was special to the family, because he went in the house, he got the keys, put the keys in my hand. He said, pay me a little bit every week till you pay it off. That's how he treated me. The best times of my life is when we got into the station wagon that he used to own. And those of us that in New York used to go to 5 towns when we went shopping. That was the best time of my life. But he used to let me, not even one of the family, but you know the fun place to sit in the station wagon is in the back. So he used to let me sit in the back seat. So he treated me like a son. I was that next door neighbor. He was quiet, but he carried a big stick. And he was a man of God. Man of God. I told my friend what I had to do. She sent me a little poem about Greif, and I want to be able to read it for you. I had my own notions of Greif. I thought it was a sad time that followed death of someone you loved, and you had to push through it to get to the other side. But I am learning there is no other side, there is no push through, rather there is absorption, adjustment, and acceptance. Greif is not something that you complete, but rather you endure. Greif is not a task to finish or move on, but it is an element of yourself, an alteration of your being, a new way of seeing, a new definition of self. Pops, we're going to miss you but never forget you. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
And a lot that he told me, I began to see it out of my own eyes.
Amen.
And I loved him with the love of God because of the type of man that he was in the community.
Yes.
I didn't know if I would have the strength to do this, but I knew he would want me to do this.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Every doctor's appointment that he had, I took him there. He shared with me wisdom. He shared with me knowledge. And he loved his family. He loved his family. You know the wisdom that he told me? He invested his money well. He invested his time well. But one thing he told me, he says, don't do some of the things that I've done. In other words, he said he wasn't a perfect man, but he shared with me wisdom in how that I can be a prosperous man upon on this land.
That's right.
He told me to work, but take care of your family. Work, but spend time with your children while you have the blood yet running warm in your veins.
That's right.
He says, have no regret. And whatever you say, do what you say, and be who you are. And be a man of God. I've known him to be a man of God. And I will miss him, but I know that he's transitioned into a better place. And it brings me great joy that he was able to impart some wisdom unto me. And his legacy is going to live on. A little part of him has been deposited within me. And everyone that gathered around him that wanted to learn, he gave us something that we can further and take it on. He was not a selfish man, but he was a generous man. And I say to you, Reverend Walter Hughes, you were such a great friend to me. And I will miss you, but take your rest, Rev. Take your rest. And justice is going to go out through this land. And I thank you, and I praise you. Thank God for you, family, Greg, Fred, Natalie, and the ones that I don't know. Karen, thank you. Thank you for how you rallied around and how you helped him. And when we go to the Veterans Hospital, they thought I was his grandson. I'm not his grandson, I'm his friend. This is, well, you're a great friend. I said, well, he was a great friend to me. And I'm doing for him, or what I've done for him, what I would want people to do for me.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what I learned from him. And when he called me, when I took him to the hospital that Sunday morning, and he began to talk to me, and I could see that he was getting weary in his body. But he never, ever gave up.
Yes, sir.
He kept pressing. And one thing that he told me, he wanted to stay in his own house. That's where he wanted to live. He didn't want to be confined to some type of, don't take this wrong now, but he didn't want to be confined to a nursing home.
That's right.
Where people had to come to feed and do this. This man was a strong man.
Yes, keep it 100.
He dressed himself.
That's right.
He never gave up. And one thing I learned about him, he's very humorous.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to say this and I'm going to take my seat. As a barber, I guess we tend to look at people, see how they're looking up here. Well, for some of you all that don't know, he wore a hearing aid. Sometimes it wasn't working. And then sometimes he would just speak his mind. So we sat, and I noticed this guy had a very peculiar haircut. He looked at me, he says, so I guess his hearing aid must have went off at the time, so he was speaking very loudly. He said, well, what is that on the top of his head? Is that some type of bird nest? I did everything to compose myself. And I looked at him again, and he just kept on talking. I don't know what is on top of his head, but it looks like a bird nest. But I said, I thank him that there was never, ever a dull moment to my mentor and my friend. And I was truly, truly miss him. But I thank God for giving this family strength.
Amen. Amen. Everybody say amen.
Amen.
Wow, very powerful, very powerful. I can't say I'm going to be short. I'm long-winded. And can't put all the words together to describe my master teacher. If I had the opportunity to do it, it would take an encyclopedia from A to Z to fill it up in its context. I met my master teacher 20 years ago, coming from Utica, New York. I have always in my life been a seeker for truth. Yeah. At the age of 3 years old, my father said to me, "Son, you've been born before your time." Being young, I grew up like any average young man, young boy. I didn't have the wisdom and knowledge that I share and getting ready to share with you today, because I had to go through trials and errors. I had to go through things and challenges in life that would ultimately make me a man. I stand in front of you today, humble as a child, but with power in the words, with energy, love, and compassion. Let me pause right there for a brief second. I truly want to give honor to Ms. Barbara Wells for her services to our community. And words cannot really express the joy that I have in my heart of seeing you again. I'll move on. I had to give it to you. She definitely served our community, our children of our community. She has the many projects across the street. This is what a community needs. We don't need leaders, but we need teachers. Because we know when we start taking on different titles as leaders, or bishop, or pastors, or ministers, sometimes we get a little twisted and sidetracked. I got to keep it 100. But given the same for master teachers, they always stay the course, regardless of what opposition may come across their path. My master teacher stayed the course. As I met him 20 years ago, yes, he used to cut my hair too. There was many people that came in. The first time I met him was across the street here at the barbershop. Then he moved from there to what is now known as the Historic District. I knew when I had any opportunity to go in and speak with him, I knew that it was going to be rewarding. And I knew that it was going to help me on my journey. The words that we shared was words that I can't really describe it, but I can say powerful and deep. He was well and is well conscious and aware, not only of his surroundings, but his spirituality of who he is, because he's going to live on. Like I had spoke of earlier, that we are divine spiritual beings having a human experience, and about the energy. Respectfully to the ministers, we have to stop talking about death. We have to stop talking about death, because there is no death. The body will return to its rightful place, which is the earth. But that energy that we have inside of us, some call it a soul and some call it a spirit, it will return back to its original source. You can call it God. You can call it Buddha. You can call it Krishna. You can give it whatever title that you want to in your denomination. But the real deal about it is that we are going back to that original source. I had to get confirmation and validation for myself before I can stand and speak as I speak. I've been brought up in a Baptist home, going to church 4 times a week. Even as a child, I had to do my homework, but still had to go to church. And I give honor to my parents and my ancestors for giving me the best that they had. I had to sit in church on Easter Sunday and do a scripture or a speech. It might have been only 2 paragraphs. But I always remember at the end of that day that I was going home with my Easter basket. So moving forward, when I met Mr. Hughes, he came down here in 98. I came down here in 2000. And while I was at his house, something entered into my spirit to say and utter these words. I will carry the baton. Pass it over to me. I will carry it and honor it. That baton, very few choose to pick it up or carry it. Because there's consequences on consequences of carrying it. But as long as you standing on truth and righteousness, carry it. And I carried it proudly. And he handed it to me. And I said, I will not drop it. Because there was many leaders that had picked it up, but set it down and went with their own ways. I just want to be a few more minutes. I can't take my time, right? I would love to. It's all right. It's much love. Let's keep that positive energy going. Okay? I'm going to be short. Less than 30 seconds. Okay? To bring it back home about the conditions of Georgetown and what we have been experiencing by social media in the last week, they ought to be ashamed before God for putting people in a fear tactic exercise drill. First, Florence is supposed to hit South Carolina, end up hitting North Carolina, send blessings out the door. Then after that, a couple of days ago, they talking about we were supposed to get 20 feet of water. See, when you are a spiritual teacher and you had the best master teachers, you don't listen to negativity. Because when things don't add up right, you got to start thinking, people. And I know it's going to be hard to start thinking. So I called on the 24 elders and asked them to send positive energy to my community, my friends and family in Georgetown. And as we see, it's a beautiful day. Thank God. I end with that.